Hey guys, it's Bina, and today I want to present to you my final version of the Primalist Summon Thorn Totem build guide. This is going to be my min-max guide, my advanced guide, my finalized version, which is going to be showcasing whether we go Druid or Shaman, whether we use a two-handed staff or Fairboar set. Um, we're going to be talking about numbers for EHP versus damage for all of these different variations. I have 6 different variations for you guys today, and we're going to be talking about also all of the interactions, how you can play the build, every skill, every passive, every single piece of gear and affix that you have on them. So we're going to be covering everything about Summon Thorn Totem so that you can make a clear choice as to how you want to play the build and how I decide to play the build. I will share it to you guys as well. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so let's go over the core of the build. So, what you want to do is you want to go into Spriggan Form, and then you want to go do Summon Healing Totem that will cast 3 at the same time, and they will shoot thorns and heal you, right? So why does this happen? Because we have Unbound Garden to get always summon 3 totems and maximum totems, and then we have Spiked Totems that your healing totems also cast thorns, and the thorn benefit from the tree of Summon Thorn Totem. So your healing totems will actually be Thorn Totems that also heal once in a while. So it's going to be our main form of sustain and our main form of damage. So basically you want to go over like this while mapping and just like having your totem kill stuff for you. They also grab aggro, so it's very strong for this. And yeah, it's a really strong build. So one thing to note, when you cast them all the time like this, right? Every time that you cast them, they automatically shoot 1 thorn. So they shoot as soon as you summon them. So spamming totems like this is actually a DPS increase compared to just, for example, summoning your 8 totems and then waiting for them to shoot like this, right? Depending on how much cast speed you have and how much cast speed you have for your totems, this might change a little bit, but generally speaking, you have more DPS if you spam your totems like this. But you are more stationary and more vulnerable to damage, right? There is this little trick where if you are in human form, and then you can also cast Thorn Totems in human form, and then go into Spriggan Form and cast your healing totems, and you'll be able to have more totems out at once. This is especially good for bosses, for example, where you can summon your 5 totems, switch to Spriggan Form, and then you have 8 plus 5 totems, all shooting at the boss at the same time, and dealing a little burst of damage at the very start. So that is one little trick you can do here. So something that I've decided while working on this build is, like, while trying out things, is whether I want to go range or damage. For example, with Nightshade Briar, this is the biggest damage boost you can get, like 120% maximum damage bonus if you have 30 stacks of poison. But I decided that going for the range is really beneficial for us. So why is this? That this range here, being able to hit, actually we're not. Are we hitting? Yeah, no, we're not. I think this is pretty much a range with 1 point into speed and range. So less projectile speed also reduces the range of your projectile. So these nodes here are very important to be able to get that big range and be able to hit enemies from afar. It is a personal decision, but also I think it's core of the build, because if you don't have range, for example, if like when you don't have that many points, the range can go down drastically, like really drastically. And I want my totems to be kind of like ballistas, where like you want to try to off-screen enemies. Of course, you won't be able to really off-screen them, but I mean, the further they shoot, the further you start hitting them, and the safer your build gets, right? And with the Pierce as well, it makes it so that it clears so well, and it's so well rounded, and we already have so much damage that getting extra damage for less range feels worse than getting more range and less damage. Yeah, so that is one decision that I've made knowingly, and this is why we go for these 3 points here, which is technically 5 points because we go for the armor shred in here. But these points are not needed since we will be using the Drillra gloves. By the way, the Drillra gloves, as per 0.9, are currently bugged, right? So the extra stat that you put on them, for example, 142% chance to shred armor on hit, stacks every time that you summon a minion, right? That stat stacks. So we're getting over 1,000 stacks of shred, but that is not technically giving us any advantage whatsoever, because even with 142 plus 40% here, we're at 180 stacks. Well, it's 180%, but you should be getting around 100, like one. It's about a 1-per-1 ratio, where if you have 100% chance to shred, you should be getting around 100 stacks of shred on the target. From my testing so far, right? So it is not giving us any significant advantage, because as soon as you reach 80, 100, 120 stacks of shred, the damage gain from this, from getting more stacks, so for example going from 120 to like 1,000, is very insignificant. Okay, so we're not getting any advantages from this, so we're not abusing any bug with the Driller gloves on this build. So anyways, this is going to be fixed in a future patch, so let's just hope it is for 0.9.1 coming May 25. Another bug that we can talk about right now. So why do I have two Spriggans? I'm using Friend of the Forest, alright, because currently with Death Rattle, when your minion die, when your extra Spriggan dies, you regain health because of the regain 30 health on minion death on Death Rattle. So what happens is that if you are transformed and you receive a fatal blow, for example, like a one big hit blow, one of your Spriggan will die, and you will be revived back in human form with 30 health. And because you have all of your healing totems out, right? You will regain your health really quickly, and it basically makes it for that Death Rattle right now is kind of like an Aura's Time Glass, where it gives you a second life. Now let's talk about the planners and the testing I've done for this build. I have a Shaman build with a staff, a Shaman build with Ferribores, another Shaman build with Ferribores, but this time very tanky with a 100% chance to block. 100% chance to block here. So I've went for my calculations in my spreadsheet, and I have all the same for the Druid, right? For the calculations in my spreadsheet, I've used like realistic values. For example, getting tier 7 minion damage on this, but like I did not go for the 140% increased minion damage. I input, I think, 125%, something around the average of the roll that you can get. So for example, the minion damage implicit and the minion critical strike chance implicit, I put 20% because that's about the average that you can get for this, right? So I went with realistic rolls. Of course, these are kind of like end game planner that like you wish you had a 2 LP Titan Heart. You can find a 3 LP Titan Heart, guys. But I went with 2 LP. I went with a 2 LP belt, 2 LP boots. Like this is obtainable in 3 LP and 3 LP as well. But it's gonna be so rare that not many people will be able to get those. And if you do get those, it's just extra basically. So 2 LP Jolra gloves, 2 LP Arboreal, 2 LP Silver Frond, 1 LP Twisted Heart, 1 LP Death Rattle. And I went, of course, for the Exalted Affixes, I went with tier 7 because this is obtainable right now with the drops that we have. I went for a tier 1 sealed, not tier 4 sealed, for example. This is still very min-maxed, but not completely impossible to obtain. So yeah, we'll go over the numbers. So I have all of these planners for you. I'll show you guys the numbers first, and then we'll go over the planners and how I set them up, right? So these are the numbers that we have, okay? So I went with each build, Druid Tank, Druid Ferribore, Druid Staff, Same thing for Shaman. And then my current setup that I have right now in game that I've pushed to almost 1,000 corruption without dying too much, right? It felt really tanky. It felt really good. Um, yeah. So I only had 9,000 EHP on the build that I have right now. And with fairly good investment, you can get up to like 25k for a shaman with a staff, and I only have right now 9k. So there's a long way to go before I'm at 25k, but it is obtainable and it is not impossible to do. Okay, um, Druid has 75k EHP, 40k for the Druid with Fairboard, Druid with a staff. So as we can see, the Druid is way tankier than the Shamans are, right? But that is to no surprise. But the DPS of the Shaman is way higher than the DPS of the Druid, which is also no surprise, right? So I think totems are best played on a Shaman. You want to be killing stuff, you want to kill stuff faster, especially with range totems. The more damage you have, the less you have to deal with any mobs. So you'll just kill them before they even get to you. So I think my final version of the build, of the Thorn Totem build, will be on a Shaman with a staff. It's not going to be with Fairboars. We would lose about 26% of our damage to get about 7% EHP, or like 10% EHP, which is not a significant amount for me to lose as much damage as this, right? Same thing for the druid. If we go for the tank druid, we would get about 200% more EHP, but you lose 72% of your DPS. That is not a good trade-off. You'll just be sitting there for like 3 times the time before being able to kill anything. So currently, to get to the point where the shaman can go, in my opinion, my gear has 44% less damage. So I can gain so much damage. It's going to be ridiculous, guys. It's going to be ridiculous. And my EHP also really, really sucks right now in game. And I can get that up. So my EHP sucks, but it feels good. So imagine if it feels good already, what it's going to feel like when you have actual good numbers there. Okay? So these are the numbers for the variations that I did. I used realistic numbers, and I'm going to show you exactly what all these builds are. So my finalized version is using a staff, a horn staff with +1 to minion skills. So this will enable us to do a couple of things, mainly in Summon Thorn Totem. Being able to put one more point in here is going to be very valuable to us, because it's either going to be damage, one more pierce, an extra totem. Like, it's all good stuff that we can put in here, right? So we're going for the horn staff with cast speed, minion physical damage, and minion spell damage. Another staff that I considered was the Bow's Anarchy staff, but that is if you want to lose, for example, if you want to lose the +1 to minion skills, and you want to get the 30% block chance and block effectiveness, and you already have the 3 LP, I would not target farm this. But I mean, if you do have it, it's a little bit tankier, and you're losing +1 to your totem skill. It could be usable. It could be usable, but I'd still think that the horn staff overall is better. It's gonna be more damage. Um, Big piece of gear here, Titan Heart. Titan Heart with the staff gives you access to the 15% less damage taken. Um, Big EHP boost. It's going to be going with spell damage for totems at tier 7. You want the flat spell damage at tier 7 and nothing else. And you want the minion critical strike multiplier here. Arguably, if you can get something else on your Titan Heart, like you could go for uh, totem damage, you could go for totem critical strike chance, like stuff like this that are available for your totems. But I went with minion critical strike multiplier because I think damage is going to be a big factor in how high this build can push. So that is why we go for this, and we get a big, huge 40% increased health. We don't need to regenerate health, since our sustain is going to come from our healing totems. So that is why I decided to go with Titan Heart. Um, Other options for this slot: Ancestral Garb, increased health, cooldown recovery speed, lots of armor. This is very good for EHP. If you want to go with even more armor, even more damage, the 14% minion spell damage results in about 10% more damage for your build. So 10% more damage is a big chunk for our build. Wild armor, 10% increased movement speed. Actually, I don't remember if it's like 6 or 10%, but it's a fairly big chunk of damage, the Great Wood Coat. So if you're looking for damage, you can go here, and if you just want to go for speed, the Wild Armor is also very good. Whichever one you get best, right? In the best possible role. Ancestral Crown, I went for +4 level of Summon Thorn Totem because we need more points in here, obviously, to get to the range nodes. And it also has 100% increased damage for totems, spell damage for totems, health, and increased health. With the sealed critical strike chance for totem, this one is very important. I put the tier 1 sealed totem critical strike chance because the tier 1 has a very high roll for the crit for totems. And this is what's going to enable us to cap our crit chance along with using minion critical strike chance on our idols here. So I have two, like min max, right? I have two of those that the suffix are increased minion physical damage. But if you are not capped in crit, I would highly suggest going for minion critical strike chance on all 4 of your idols here. It's going to make it easier to cap your crit, and idols are very, very chase items with this build. So that is why I went to go for the sealed tier 1, but you can seal something else like minion critical strike multiplier or anything that suits the build. For the belt, Legacy of the Quiet Forest, this caps our poison res and our void res along with the Drillra gloves because the Drillra gloves have an implicit for void. So we have cap poison, cap void, and then the shaman itself caps the rest with its mastery and the points in. So we have 50% LA res while I control a totem. We have LA res per totem and physical res per totem here. So we have physical, all elemental, void, and poison covered with just Legacy of the Quiet, Drillra's Obsession, and being a shaman. So the only other res that you want to cap is going to be Necrotic. And so Necrotic, I have one little charm of Necrotic here, and then we have the blessing for Necrotic res there. So that is why I decided to go with Legacy of the Quiet Forest. Also, it's one of those belts that have the implicit for armor, and it has armor on the suffix as well, rolling on the unique item. So it is a very strong defensive option, as well as giving us 15 to 20 rage gained every 3 seconds while in Spriggan Form. And this is going to help us even more to sustain our rage with Memories of Eterra. So that is why we go for this. For boots, we have a couple of options, right? We have Eterra's Path, which is a good option. It's the best movement speed option, and it also gives us healing effectiveness for our totems and a big amount of health. But there's other options you can use. You can go for Metropolis. Lessons of the Metropolis gives us dodge rating if you've been hit recently, which can be really, really good. It's good in numbers for EHP. It has a little bit less movement speed than Eterra's Path, but still fairly significant movement speed. If you can get tier 7 movement speed here, it will still feel good. Dexterity for more dodge and 5% less damage taken while moving. So whichever boots you get first with 2 or 3 LP, you can use those. Another option for boots is going to be Foot of the Mountain. Foot of the Mountain has a lot less movement speed, but it gives you access to endurance, which will make you able to not roll endurance somewhere else, for example on an arboreal circuit. So if you have, and these are also very easily farmable by going into the Lightless Arbor dungeon, right? So at tier 4, you have a 45% chance to get the Foot of the Mountain, and the legendary potential for this is 48, right? It's much lower. It's much lower than Eterra's Path, which is 70, and Metropolis is a little bit lower at 50, but Foot of the Mountain, 48. It's the easiest boots to get with 2 or 3 LP. So you can farm those. We don't really use them for the stack of mountains endurance while not moving because we're not getting a lot of dodge. Um, I thought about getting dodge with Maelstrom and Spirit Thorns and all these things, but ultimately the conclusion is it's not worth it. Um, the all attributes also gives us attunement, and attunement gives us damage for our totems. All attributes gives us strength. Strength gives us percentage armor, which is good for our EHP. It gives us vitality for our EHP. It gives us a lot of good things. So Foot of the Mountain is very, very interesting. Something I forgot to say, Titan Heart, there's another option, right? I love the mountain set. Core of the Mountain, I believe, could be used for this build. It gives us all attributes, endurance, endurance threshold, percentage armor, and you go for spell damage for totems and something else, right? It sucks that it does not have health on it. You go for percentage health, but I think minion crit strike multi and getting the damage immunity for 3 seconds after being hit, since we're a kiting build and we'll kill stuff oftentimes before they get to us, if we get hit by one small hit and then we can have 3 seconds of immunity, we should be able to clear the pack that is attacking us, and like maybe a dangerous pack or maybe a dangerous mob or something. It should give us a bit of immunity, and I think this is sleeper OP, Core of the Mountain. I still need to test in Arena. I haven't played Arena for a long time, but I believe that this has potential to be really good. So Core of the Mountain or Titan Heart. So the boots, we have 3 choices, as I just said. Drill red gloves, the only gloves that we want, because we want to have the shred armor to get up to like, it's going to be about 80% more damage for us. And also we want to get the frailty on hit. So the frailty will enable you to take less damage. It's another defensive option. And it has also spell damage, flat spell damage for your minions. Um, Overall, the best gloves that you can use. For the relic here, I go with Twisted Heart of Eukaros. So this is used for EHP. It is a big EHP boost. Especially if you get 1 LP with tier 7 minion damage on it, it's gonna be great. It's EHP because of 20% increased health. It has strength. Strength translates to armor percent. It has cast speed, which is also like not insignificant for our build, since we summon totems with our casting speed. Um, we're not using the current health convert ward when you cast an elemental spell. We could be using it if we went this route with Ice Branch here and like maybe getting some mushroom stacks and stuff at the same time. But ultimately, I decided that this is not worth the investment, and it's better to just use Twisted Heart just for the EHP, and that's it. Other options that you could use here, you got Stormcarved Testament. This could be good for 6 spell lightning damage for you and your totems. Also giving you attunement here. So you have a chance to summon a Storm Totem on hit. And when you're playing in Monoliths, you can replace Ice Thorns with Storm Totem to get the 40% increased movement speed. You can get Slow and Chill if you want. You can spec this fully for damage to get an extra damage boost on bosses or on certain tankier mobs. But I think ultimately for a min-max build, we are not going to be using this. We're going to be using Twisted Heart of Eukaros because it's such a good relic for EHP. If you don't want to use any of those and you want to uh, more easily put stats and like cap your endurance and then do all of these things, right? You can use a regular relic and it's still very, very good. So some of the best relics that you can use are going to be either the increased minion damage or the endurance one. Um, these are the 2 relics that I would suggest using if you can, or any other relic will do, but those are the like 2 best ones I think you can get, because you need endurance for the build to get up to 60% endurance, and this one gives you minion damage and companion revive range and revive speed, so very good. So that is it for the relic. For the rings, Arboreal Circuit, the decoy that this procs is so powerful. It's like old decoy before the nerf from the rogue. So this one just grabs anything, any mob on the map will automatically stop attacking you and just run straight to that decoy. So it's also the fastest movement speed ring in the game, with giving us up to 18% movement speed on a single ring. And it gives us minion armor, which is not negligible because you don't want your Spriggans to continually die, and even your totems, right? Eventually, your totems will just get one shot, but they'll have time to at least like shoot one or two Thorns. But yeah, Arboreal Circuit, really, really good ring. I went for minion damage and a tier 7 endurance. Of course, guys, one thing is, I think we should be getting around 300% increased minion health on our gear for our Spriggans and our totems to feel good to play. But feel free to experiment. I feel like 300% is the sweet spot. So getting 2 rolls of like tier 5 or 1 roll of tier 7. And we also need to get 64 endurance, right? So between the rings, the amulet, the relic, feel free to switch LP around. So I have minion damage, endurance, minion health, crit avoidance, minion damage, minion damage. If you have any piece that you can mix and match, feel free to do so. So yeah, that is pretty much it for Arboreal Circuit. Silverfron, this is our movement ability. So it is on a turquoise ring base, which is good for minions. So it has minion damage and minion critical strike multiplier. Um, so this makes it so that when we cast Summon Vines, when we are in Spriggan Form, the weakness of Spriggan Form is it has no movement ability, so no traversal skill. But now Summon Vines makes it so that it's a traversal skill now. And so this makes it so that we're able to teleport. So it's great. It's very defensive. It can be offensive as well. It can be speedy. It's I think overall, if you have a Silver Frond with LP, use it. Crit strike avoidance, minion health. This is what I went for. So pretty basic for this one. Death rattle. We talked about this one a little bit, but it's on a turquoise base. Minion damage, minion critical strike chance. This is gonna help us cap our crit chance. We slam minion damage on there. It gives us up to 100% minion crit strike multi. And we regain 30 health on minion death or on totem on summon. So right, minion death or on summon. So that is it for the gear. For our idols, we go for grand idols for haste. So we want to cap our haste. So with 2 of these idols and the shaman ancestral speed, we'll be able to get haste all the time. And then I have two idols up here with a suffix of minion physical damage. And then the 2 down here have minion critical strike chance, right? So this one has, the Ornate Idol has base 4% critical strike chance for totems. You need to have these to be able to cap your crit chance on the shaman build that I have right now set up. So yeah, this is why we use this. We use increased damage for totem as a suffix and increased health on a large idol. These are like the large idols for primalists are really, really powerful. They have so much versatility. You have crit avoidance, LA res while transform, damage for totem. Like there's so many good rolls. Yeah, I'd like if more idols were so as good as large idols for primalists. This one is just to cap our necrotic res from our blessing, and then I put one with vitality and increased minion physical damage. You could use anything else to like help you cap your resistances in this spot, but in the min max version, I felt like I wanted to have more damage. For our blessings, we go for the health blessing because there's nothing else really we can get that is going to be beneficial for us. The mana blessing is kind of important. It is not mandatory, but in arena or in certain situations where you're going to be spamming your Thorn Shield to cast Eterra to Swift Recovery down revive a down companion, you're gonna want to have a big mana pool to be able to cast all of these Thorn Shields, because Thorn Shield does cost a lot of mana. So that is why we're going for the mana blessing, because we want We don't want any situation where we run out of rage, and yeah, basically we don't want to run out of rage. And there's nothing else really we can get that would really benefit us, like 30 ward per second. Um, Nothing feels that great in the Storm Blessing. Necrotic Res, self-explanatory. This is how we set up the build. Then we go for armor and armor as usual. So that is it for the blessings. Let's go over the skills now. Um, Skills, summon Thorn Totem. We go for the double projectile chance, and then lethal ticket. We go for 200% increased crit chance. This is very important to cap your crit. You need these 4 points, unless you have somewhere else on your gear critical strike chance for totems. But in the min-max version, I don't have this. I have 1 in the single projectile and 1 pierce. After this, we have +3 maximum Thorn Totems, and this will increase the mana cost. And then we go for the mana gain. So every time we unsummon a totem, we gain mana. So we always summon 3 totems, so we always gain 3 times this amount of mana. So this will make it that we have infinite rage and infinite rage sustain while in Spriggan Form. Super important. We go for the damage, and then we go for the range. This is an extra damage here. This will be the last point that I actually take because it gives us less projectile speed. But yeah, so that is it for Summon Thorn Totem. I did not want to go this way, as I explained earlier, because like I made the choice to go for the range. In our Summon Spriggan tree, we go for spell damage, base crit chance, and crit avoidance. The base crit chance is important to be able to cap our crit. The crit avoidance is just basically free. You also get the bonus from the aura, even when your summoned Spriggan is in a downed state. When there's the circle on the ground, you do get these bonuses, guys. Okay. And then we go here to get a little bit of dodge per attunement, and then just summon Spriggan survivability. In the Spriggan form, we go for, okay, so first of all, we go for the healing totem, cast Thorns, and then we summon 3 at a time, and then we go for the armor, and then we're going to go for the Guardian of Nature for increased healing. Then we go for the second Spriggan just to get the extra life. Hopefully this will get fixed in the next patch 2.9.1, but we'll see. And then just the 2 extra points are basically useless, but we put them here to get a little bit more armor, which we will proc with Thick of Thorns in the Druid tree. Ice Thorns here is just used as extra armor because we don't have any other skill to use. So you get procced when you get hit, and then you get extra armor. Eterra's Blessing, you go for the cast on Thorn Shield use, and then you go for the cleanse, and you go for the revive on when you spam it on your down companion. You can revive him from afar, and then you go for the healing. Basically, heals over time, and then heal again when it expires. So very self-explanatory. Mainly used to cleanse and to revive. So that's it for the skills. And now for the passives, as always, guys, I included a little slider here which can record how you want to put your skills in which order. Same thing for like the passives and the skills. In the Primalist base class, we go 1 point into Natural Attunement just to get Wisdom of the Wild for the minion spell damage, and then the flat for totems. And then your totems are immune to poison damage, so they don't insta-die if you summon them in a pool of poison or something. We go for health, just basically health, 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 and then less damage taken on low health. The EHP numbers that I showed you earlier did not take into consideration Berserker. In the Shaman tree, we go for the damage here with the penetration and attunement, since we don't have any penetration, any shred for like physical shred with our totems or anything. The penetration stat is going to be very beneficial. We go for health on here. We go for these 2 points just to get to the flat damage here, and res per active totem. We take all points here because if we have a situation where totems are dying, we want to maximize the chances of us having enough totems to have capped resistances, especially in physical. And the 5 points, totem cast speed and haste chance. This is basically mainly used to get haste because with our 2 idols, we're going to be able to get to up to 100% chance to get haste each time we summon a totem. In the druid tree, we have endurance here, mainly for the endurance. We have chance to cast Thorn Shield when you're hit, gaining 20% extra armor, which is fairly significant. Attunement and strength with all attributes, and then we get 10% movement speed, and then attack and cast speed as well. I mean, we do use a little bit of cast speed. It makes us it makes it easier for us to kite and summon totems. Beastmaster basically attacks. We go for the less damage taken from nearby enemies and aspect of the boar, and then 15% extra aspect of the boar, so 30% damage reduction here, and then 16% here, and then we go for the health. This is the best health node in the entire Primalist tree because it has 12 health instead of 10. So yeah, that is it for the passives. Um, so the conclusion of this is that we are going to be using, we're going to be playing the Shaman with a staff, two-hander with Titan Heart, or maybe I'm really considering Core of the Mountain, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have one with 2 LP. So this is my conclusion. We have so much more damage on, we have so much more damage when using the Shaman with a staff. We lose too much damage from going to any other setup, basically, and I don't think it's worth the change just to get like losing 39% to gain 40% EHP. I think Druid with a staff is the only realistic other choice that we have. Maybe Druid with Ferrobores, but certainly not like Shaman with Ferrobores or Shaman Tank. Um, so yeah, I think possibly Druid, but mainly we stay Shaman. So that is pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the more in-depth content and more in-depth explanations of how we can play this. I will be pushing arena with this build. I will be pushing like gearing up and trying to find great LP items because that's the most exciting part for me. Getting LP and pushing arena as soon as the ladder comes out. And yeah, I hope if you have any questions, if you think I missed something, if you think that I might have made a mistake or I might have overlooked something, please mention it in the comments below. You can also find me on Twitch. Always appreciate you guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.